There we go. Let's get our Facebook friends in here to join the show as I'm getting my phone blown up. Hopefully it's not my wife asking about the baby or something, but we're hanging out here. We're having a good time, and welcome in everybody. It is Wednesday morning, and it's officially Scott's last official day for the show. I'm sure it won't be your last, Scott. I bet you at some point, even if we don't need a pinch hitter come in, we'll go a group of three with Eric sometime, or I'll give Eric the day off early in the morning. Who knows? But how you feeling? Very, very bittersweet over here. Luckily, it's raining in Seattle, so you can't tell if I'm crying or not. But we're hanging out.
Yeah, it's been almost 4 years that we've been doing this. I went back and was looking through, the first shows. I'm like, good Lord, I look terrible. Now I look old. I still look terrible, but at least I look clear and I sound clear. So it's been a good run. I can't thank Chad Jensen enough for creating the show for us at a time when I needed it. I needed the work, the exposure, the content, the reps. And he trusted that my time of doing recruiting as a national recruiting director, working with all teams, that I wouldn't have any trouble fitting in with a Broncos country without being able to remove previous biases and try and be neutral in this thing. Which I'm robotically neutral, Nick, as you know. When so who do you root for? I root for me. That's who I root for. I root for me. So it's been fun, but we got a show to do today.
Yeah, we do. Denver Luke comes in here. Good morning, Nick and Scott. Just wanted to thank Scott for all the years of time and effort and many great shows. I made 50-second edit for you guys. If you want to check it out, hit us up on Mile High Huddle's website, or I don't know, where can you send this? Our Twitter account?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, if you DM on Twitter, or you can always just email me. I'm just Skinnedy, SKINNEDY @gmail. Just take that first E in my last name and redneck it up a little bit, because that's what my Auburn buddies call me. They say, hey, Skinnedy. So, and Skinnedy is a lot easier to get than S. Kennedy. There's 4 or 5 S. Kennedys in my own house, for God's sakes. But he follows up. He says, it's just so cool. I just got out of high school when y'all started the show. Time flies, brother. And it helped me a lot through my struggles with anxiety and depression. That's something that a lot of us battle through. And y'all have helped me with that too. So, I mentioned that before, that this helps elevate my mood doing these shows. So glad we were here for each other, DL, and hope as you get out of college, you find plenty of what you want to do with life. I'm still looking. I'm still trying to figure it out. So don't let anybody tell you have to have it figured out in your 20s.
Yeah, and my advice is very granola-y to the anxiety and depression. Put the phone down and get outside and go on a walk. Just even like 30 minutes a day, just being outside. And sometimes being alone with your thoughts is a scary place, but you don't have to constantly be fed with entertainment, the algorithm throwing out, unless you're listening to us. But that's, other than that, I feel like my mental state improved a lot once I got a dog and I was forced to walk, twice a day and spend an hour a day, no matter the weather, just getting outside and moving a little bit. So that's helped me a lot with that as well. But thank you so much, Denver Luke. We got Dave Glassman saying, thanks, Scott. Great to see you. And our guy Rob coming in, 99.99. Goodness gracious. Says, good morning, Nick and Scott, the best MHH team. Scott, you'll be missed greatly. I don't always catch you live, but I listen to every single show. You two are such a staple to the day. I better. Yes,
Today's better. Broncos for breakfast.
Yeah. Day is better with Broncos for breakfast. You bring magic to my mornings. Hope the bullpen is busy. Yeah, we're going to be calling in there. I'm sure plenty. Not to.
I am left-handed, so when I do say call in the lefty, I am left-handed. So I actually mean it.
Yeah, well, there you go. The loogie, I think, is the term I've heard for the bullpen.
One out guy. They've outlawed that. You're not allowed to do that anymore.
Really? Gosh.
Yeah, you have to pitch to at least 3 batters now or something. So.
Baseball. Right, Robbie Red, thank you, Scott, best MHH crew, and it's been an absolute joy watching and listening to you guys. Thanks for the many mornings entertaining. We're not going to be completely gone, though, guys. We're still going to be doing some Falcons stuff over on Scott's channel, and, of course, with that comes the overall arching draft and team building conversation as well. So it's not going to be completely gone, just more so Broncos-specific content. Max comes in from up across the border, north of the border, 5 Canadian. What are they? Mooseroos, whatever you want to call them. Morning, gents. Have a great show. Thank you, Scott, for the insight. It's time to take the division, build the trenches, MHH for life, and go Broncos. Thank you so much. Also, Denver Luke says it's on his YouTube channel, Denver Luke 1. We'll have to check that out for sure. You guys are killing it this morning. I also see Michael Ronquillo in here. Good morning, Nick and Scott on Broncos for Breakfast. Go Bo Broncos. Yeah, thank you so much, everybody coming in. And Eric's going to be taking over for Scott here in the morning. So
and real quick, it wouldn't be a show if I didn't interrupt you at least 10 times. This was Monster Stars from Michael. So wow. I just brought up my Facebook group over here and looked, and I was like, knowing Michael probably came in swinging for the fences. He did. And Michael, you know, I'm glad that you watch all of our shows for a lot of reasons. But you know, I'm glad that we'll still get to see you weekly, you know, that you're still going to be in the chats and stuff. And again, I will still be producing the shows in the evening. So I'll still be in the background. So I'm not leaving. I'm just not going to be a host of Broncos for Breakfast anymore. That's it. So I'll still be in the background, still be heavily involved with Mile High Huddle and Broncos Country.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a personal bummer, and just again wanted to take a second to thank you for the consistency over the years. You've been a pleasure to work with. I've always enjoyed your analysis, your takes, your anecdotes, your even keel nature. Even if it's I appreciate the curmudgeon-y because I also have that in my heart. The ruthless pragmatism that is just, you know, not the general sweeping fanalist take, which is really not my cup, right? I'm not always the orange sunglasses, everything is awesome fan. To have that, I don't want to say validated is the right word, but just kind of have that, you know, overarching scope on things has been a lot of fun these last 4 or 5 years, and do appreciate the heck out of it. But again, very, very happy. Yeah, Nick is very pessimistic. I feel like I'm Scott and I are kind of cut from the same cloth on some of that, but
we are. But being a guest in someone else's house, I'm probably more optimistic here. You know, I try and, you know, you don't want. I'm an outsider. You know, I didn't grow up in Broncos country. I'm not going to come in here and be overly critical unless it is absolutely 100% warranted. You know, my pessimistic nature is well earned. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, and I was raised in Atlanta sports in the 80s. Those are two of the worst sports cities in sports. I have earned it well being a cynical SOB. I've got the scars to prove it. So now I just don't care. You know, I was what was it, Sunday, I think. Chelsea stinks. Auburn, I haven't watched much Auburn. I watch on my phone. I watch box scores. Auburn loses to Florida. I'm like, these are days why I don't watch sports anymore. They're jobs, man.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of mine comes from being a scientist and very skeptical at nature. You do it once, do it again. Is it replicable? Just the hypothesis.
And I worship at the altar of Murphy's Law. I absolutely do. It just what's more pessimistic. What could go wrong? It's gonna.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Keith comes in. The life is all about changes. There's no Scott Kennedy that you and everything you are on the screen will be missed. Yeah, absolutely. And we're gonna get our final, maybe not final. I'm sure Scott will jump in at some point. But we'll run a mock draft today as well, probably over at PFF. Even though they're, I don't always love their big board. I feel like the actual algorithm that they use to run the draft is pretty good in that simulator, and I think it'll get better. That simulator will get better the more people run the mocks the closer we get to April, because you can go with the general board versus the PFF board more so. So we'll probably lean into that a little bit. But topic today, did want to touch on Eric Trickle's article here recently about mock draft risers of late and potentially some guys that could be in the conversation for 20. Obviously, Scott, we know that the Senior Bowl's come and gone. The season's over, but we got the combine coming up. We got pro days and everything like that, the off season. And especially coming out of the combine, there's always a lot of change in these big boards. And it's not necessarily the testing that's changed that. It's the after hours conversations where, you know, a few drinks happen, media talking with their teams. And also the other aspect of it is a lot of these coaching staffs are getting their eyes on these players for the first time at this point in the season. They've been focused on their own team. It's been the front office scout people on the road that have analyzed. Well, now you're starting to get the coaches involved, and that's going to shake up boards a lot. So again, we're going to try to see if there's any movement right now, and guys that could potentially be dark horses for the Broncos at 20 or elsewhere. Also want to get Lou coming in here saying you're going to be missed, Scott. Always really enjoyed your insight and expertise over the years and wish you success in the future. Yeah, again, Scott is going to be leaving these Wednesday show or Monday and Wednesday morning shows, but he'll still be around sometimes as well. So that'll be great. And I'm excited to work with, not, it's a bummer to move on from Scott, but I'm excited to work with Eric as well, who's somebody I've long respected the work and his eye on evaluating players as well. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't feel as guilty leaving you during draft season, knowing that MHH senior draft analyst is going to be taking this chair. This is a perfect time for Eric to be sliding into Broncos for breakfast. And I've done shows with Eric, several shows with Eric, obviously almost 600 shows with Nick through the years, almost 500 of this. And then, well, shoot, probably 1,000 shows if we combine all of them, Nick.
Lord
probably
knows.
done 1,000 shows if we combine all of them. And Eric and Nick will be great together. And it's very humbling, Lou. Thank you for your support coming in up with the British Pound. Looking forward to getting back over to your neck of the woods and watching some other football.
Yeah. Jealous of that. I need to get back in the mountains. That's what I need. Also, I need you guys to check out Underdog Fantasy. That would be a heck of a lot of fun. No underdogs in here. We're definitely, especially Broncos, not an underdog anymore. We'll see what the Vegas over-under is for them this season, but a team that's very much on the rise, and a vulnerable Chiefs team in the AFC. Peyton's made the target, man. He says we're coming for Kansas City this year, so no underdogs in Denver this season.
No, and now it's basketball season too, including number 1 versus number 2, Auburn and Alabama this weekend. First time that's ever happened in the SEC in the regular season. So when your favorite star scores a bucket, we're alley-ooping you an opportunity to win money from watching sports with Underdog. Underdog is one of the leading sports apps, and you can play now in your state. Do you want to win up to 1,000 times your money? You can with Underdog.
To play, choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats, such as points, assists, rebounds, and more. Underdog's got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from. Create entries with all basketball picks or mix and match across other sports. You can play with as little as $1, and if you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn $1 into 1,000 just with your hoops knowledge.
Download the Underdog app and sign up now using the promo code MHuddle to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in on the fun when you sign up with the promo code MHuddle. Claim your special offer today and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon first deposit.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus, Alabama, Nebraska, 90 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Appreciate it. The Underdog Fantasy. Make sure you guys check that out with our promo code MHuddle. That helps us a heck of a lot. We also got David coming in, says, Scott, you are not an outsider. You are family. Yeah, it's definitely a football family in here. So appreciate that.
And I've enjoyed the meet and greets and stuff where I've gotten to meet a lot of you, and even just getting to know y'all online through the chats and stuff, through direct messages, and some of the folks that are on other shows that I get to meet and made some friends. Hung out with Ethan when we were over in London for a while. The DWI guys, who's been a little bit busy too. Roy, Michael, David's, lots of them. So appreciate all y'all.
Yeah,
and some of the other guys that come in, like Right Wing Nut Job. He's on the evenings. I see you all the time, and not able to come in here as much as he says. He says I don't get to watch live as much as I want, but you'll be missed, Scott. Good luck in your future endeavors. Thank you. My future endeavors will still include MHH. That's for sure. Just not a permanent host of Broncos for Breakfast.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jermaine, I'll make you a promise. I'm going to try not to complain very much, but I'm also always going to be critical because, like let's say the Eagles right now, they just won a Super Bowl. You know what their front office is doing? How can we sustain this? How can we get even better? It's a constant process when it comes to team building. You're never actually truly set. There's always poking and proddings and evolutions that are required for teams. And Denver is still very much in that, of course.
And Nick, you were talking about, the overarching scope of things, and I think we get tunnel vision so bad that it's a reminder. Oh, well, the salary cap goes up. We'll be fine. Goes up for everybody else too, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
When when you're sitting there with 20 million and you go to 50, we got $50 million. Yeah, but the person that had 80 now has 110. You're still not outbidding them, and we sometimes say, well, we got this guy, and this guy, and by God, they're all going to hit. That's what all 31 teams are saying right now. They're also out there working and trying to get better. Some just do it better than others. And Sean Payton is one of those guys. And Nick, I was adamant he was worth a first round pick, especially in the 30, what was it? 28, 29. And I feel pretty justified in that take after 2 years.
Definitely worth it. I still stand by that he was my number 3 out of the candidates that were available, because I think Ryans is a hell of a coach. He was my number 1. I think that Jim Harbaugh is a hell of a coach as well. And again, all things equal, not having to give up anything, I would have gone with Peyton. But the first round pick and the second round
Harbaugh went to his first choice.
Yep.
D'Amico went to his first choice.
Yep. It wasn't about Denver.
It wasn't about Denver. Harbaugh wanted to go to LA, and D'Amico wanted to go home. Yep. Back to Houston. So it cost a first round choice to get the next. And who was after that? I don't even remember who they were after that as far as options. Because Dan Quinn was being interviewed. There were a lot of people thought Dan Quinn was going to get hired. He did a hell of a job too. But for a first round pick in the 29th, basically you traded 6 weeks of Bradley Chubb for Sean Payton. Pretty good move.
Yeah. He also gave up a round 2 pick, I think also, but either way, it works out well in hindsight, obviously. And we got a foundation for this Broncos team, our overarching. I think it was on a different show I guested on, where they asked me a big picture, your state of the union for the Broncos right now. It's like Denver's in a really enviable position now. Do they have a superstar quarterback that you can build around that gets you knocking at the door every single season? Not ready to say that yet after one season of data, but you have a young, cost-controlled quarterback who, in the very least, is starting caliber at a really good contract value. You're bringing back all 5 of your offensive linemen, and you're pretty set on 4 of the 5 for the next 2+ seasons. You have Sean Payton in-house. You got the best defensive player in football at a premium position, and you have coaching stability for the most part. A lot of turnover in the positional stuff. That's fine. And you have the richest owners in sports who have figured out we'll see if it's sustainable long-term, but you're hitting well above average in the injury rate. They're pouring money into the facilities and everything that owners can pour their money into that's outside the salary cap. And speaking of the salary cap, it's going to be cash over cap. We'll see if they kind of follow what the Eagles have done there, where all their premium players are making pretty much nothing against the cap, and it's these void years down the line. So we'll see if the CBA or anything nips that in the bud, whatever the phrase is there. But Denver is in such a good position. It's crazy how different the position is the Broncos are in now, Scott, compared to when we were together. It was the first year of George Payton. They had that unbelievable 2021 draft. Do they need a quarterback? Offensive line, right tackle's been an absolute, travesty. Defense is kind of waning a little bit. God, Denver's in a good spot right now.
Yeah, and again, it's going to be much different narratives this offseason as far as the Denver Broncos. This is the worst roster in football. No, it's really not. And I would expect the defense to fall off a little bit, Nick. I just this is the pessimist in me, that I think that the defense wildly overachieved. And if you end up going playmakers with a lot of your off-season, we got to get Bo Nix a running back. We got to get him a tight end. We got to get him another wide receiver. If you end up using a lot of your premium resources on that side of the ball, I just expect the defense to revert back to low teens. I mean, they were top 5 this year in most categories. And I think they overachieved. And as you said, we got to put a log on the fire. How are you going to replace DJ Jones, or, bring him back? And is he going to be as good or this year or not? JFM was a hit. Was Brandon Jones? You got an opening at safety. Your linebacker core is kind of iffy. Does Nick Benito have another teens type of sack year? There were a lot of things that went right. Now, can you still invest into both sides of the ball in order to sustain? Because the defense for me was the big difference in this team being 10-7 versus being 7-10.
Yeah. I would add the caveat of the offensive line as well. Just the stability that gave you something every single week where it's like, we know Bo Nix is not going to get hit like crazy, and we're going to avoid a lot of negative plays because of how good the offensive line was as a unit. Maybe not like individually great, but as a collective, they were very good. And I'm with you on the defensive side of the ball. Now, I don't think they're going to fall to the low teens per se, unless you have it
12, 13. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's certainly possible. It's just so hard because the defense, we talked a big takeaway with the Eagles, and like, is it the same for the Broncos? The Eagles got home with 4 while having 7 in coverage. The math for Denver is a little different, just because they have Patrick Surtain out there, right? So like, he's almost like counts as like 1.5 players in coverage. He's that good in space, so you can afford to be a little bit more aggressive with the pass rush up front. And that said, I think that I would expect some regression on the defensive side of the ball this season. I think we saw it in the second half of the year. The first half of the year, they were dominant. After that, like the Cleveland game onwards, they were somewhere, middle of the pack in a lot of the metrics, which is fine. But a lot of the defense is built on how good Surtain is. And even if he just has turf toe, right? And that causes him to fall, that could completely change the defense by like 10 slots.
Well, you know what Vance Joseph, and this is where the personnel is going to help. You know what Vance Joseph was really good at? Completely overwhelming poor teams. With poorly coached, poorly schemed, just disaster of teams. And they're out there for sure. And that's where, and there's a term in this. It's a negative term, and I don't really mean it like this because I think Vance Joseph did a hell of a job. But it's a flat track bully. Can you beat up on the really bad teams, and how are you against somebody that comes up and hits you? We'll trade blows with you. But I still think part of that was personnel. I think his scheme just overwhelmed poorly coached teams, which is 2/3 of your schedule. Between either a poorly coached or a bad quarterback type of thing. And then if you can invest on the defensive side of the ball, then the personnel will help. You're not getting your linebackers exposed. Your second safety isn't isolated, by a good quarterback, offensive coordinator combination that's able to take advantage of those type of things. So again, there needs to be investment on both sides. Yes, you had a top 5 defense. No, you can't pencil that in for next year by any stretch of the imagination.
Yep. And I'm with you. I mean, if you're talking Sean Payton's must-haves, needs, and wants, I think a 0 or 1 tech to replace DJ Jones is got to be up there, at least in the needs. You need a must-have as a linebacker, and probably a must-have as a safety as well, because when you had a good enough drop-back pass game out there, or just overall competency and offense in that way, specifically in the drop-back pass game, they were able to find weaknesses in that area. So I would expect Denver to spend decently at linebacker, bring in a linebacker to pair with Alex Singleton, as well as a safety to replace PJ Locke. But we'll see. There's plenty of competent safety and linebackers in free agency that would help the Broncos a lot. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to get, Ray Lewis and Ed Reed out there by any means, but just, raising the floor there where they're not, if your cornerbacks on the perimeter and defensive line are not stalemated, like we saw against better teams, and all of a sudden, linebacker and safety, we can isolate you. We're going to take advantage of that. I think you raise the floor there. So again, I'm with you. I'm not expecting the defense to finish, what were they, fourth in DVOA, number 1 or number 2 in EPA per play. I'm expecting somewhere more to the 7th or 8th. That's fine. Honestly, if you can hang around there every year, that's great. Defense tends to be volatile, but yeah, big picture, it's going to be more. I've said it 100 times on here. The difference of this team next season is how much growth Bo Nix has, regardless of the infrastructure around him. Now, nothing happens in space or isolated by any means, but it's that's the big difference of this team is, can Bo Nix raise from let's just lowball it and say the 18th best quarterback in the NFL this season, let's say the 15th to 18th, and work his way up somewhere to the 10th to 12th. That's, on itself this season, that's probably 2.5 more wins. So that's the biggest move.
And Coach Chris coming in with a super chat with that Broncos orange. He says, Scott, you were the Ebert to Nick Siskel. I didn't watch them enough to know exactly what that means. They were kind of like one entity to me. Siskel and Ebert was kind of one thing to me. But he says, everyone is talking about a joker, but don't we have a joker in Marvin Mims? He says, it's a strong no for me on Debo. No go-go gadget players in free agency. Have a great day. I make fun of the phrase joker just because it gets so overused. Like it's some sort of mythical credo. Nobody else will have this. If we can just get the Joker, it's like, I mean, a Joker's a wild card, right? The Joker's a wild card that helps me beat the other team because I can fit it anywhere in my hand. All a Joker is a running back or tight end that can catch the freaking ball. That's it. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's the Joker.
Yep. A mismatch
because tight ends and running backs that can catch against a linebacker in the middle of the field are mismatches. I mean, that's all it is. That's why everybody has Joker tendencies. When Sean Payton's asked about it, yeah, I see some Joker in him. You mean he can catch? Wow. What a revelation. Is Marvin Mims that guy? No, Marvin Mims right now is the gadget guy. You don't, and Debo wasn't. Now, what has he become? That Nick got into that on Monday, I believe, that he's just not the same player that he was 2-3 years ago, where I can target this run. I got a running back in the backfield that I can also target 80 times in the passing game. That's a Joker. I got a decent blocking tight end that I can throw the ball to him. I can target him 8 or 9 times a game. That's a Joker. That's it. That's all it is.
Yep.
You don't necessarily have that guy on your roster right now. You know, I think Nick has said Javonte Williams was the second leading targeted player on your team. He's probably not going to be on the roster this year, and not because you can't afford him. So you need that guy that can be a weapon in the passing game, and you didn't have one at running back, and you didn't have one at tight end. That's why you didn't have a Joker.
Yep. The one thing I will add, Scott, to this conversation about the Joker position is that since, Sean Payton's been out there in New Orleans, the league obviously has changed defensively, where teams are playing sub-package, nickel, pretty much no matter what. And in his interview with Kay Adams, he mentioned the too high stuff. But I do think there is, for the tight end specifically, you have to be a good enough blocker, either in space or attached to the line of scrimmage. So move or either, in line to punish teams if they play light boxes. Like, I don't think there's a point of having a pass catching tight end if they bring nothing to the table as a blocker to dictate personnel. Used to be, 10 years ago, everybody was still playing 4-3 early. And of course, a linebacker in space, the tight end's going to take advantage of. Are they taking advantage of Cooper DeJean, who's tackling just as well as a linebacker? No. So you need to have your tight end at least be a blocker. None of these glorified wide receiver tight ends, because at that point, just give me a freaking wide receiver who can block, because you're going to have 10 times the pass catching ability, route running ability as those guys. So that's one factor. The other factor is for running back, unless that player can pass protect, they're going to be a negative, because guess what? If you have a fish out there, it stinks in pass protection, defensive coordinators are so good with breaking protection rules nowadays that they're going to be able to isolate that player. And there's not going to be a peel off, chip and go kind of thing, because he's going to get pulverized out there by a free rusher, especially with these hybrid, edge linebacker, pass rusher types that are across the league that they're isolating and breaking these protection rules. So again, I think the one caveat that's not captured, in my opinion, with this Joker stuff is there has to be a level of blocking and protection. Otherwise, you are completely losing that schematic advantage across the offense. And 10 years ago, I don't think that was the case. But with how defenses are playing now, it very much is.
Yeah, and I bake that into, I want that out of my tight end or running back anyway.
Yeah, it used to be where you could get away with it, though, because they weren't playing base and they weren't breaking protection rules like they are now. It's weird. It's hard. There's always, ebb and flow in the strategy of it.
Ernie Mace says, go Broncos country. And he says, a shout out to the 3-time losers, Kansas City Chiefs. Ernie, I would like to remind you, sir, it's Broncos country only today. We're not talking Chiefs. Come on, Ernie. No, I'm just teasing. Kenny has an interesting question. Got me thinking about this one a little bit. He says a dark-horse question that involves the Falcons. Who says no to this trade? The Falcons get Benito. The Broncos get pick 15 and keep 20. So basically, you're trading Benito to the Falcons for pick 15. My thought process is if Genti is available, the Chargers and Steelers might be interested as well. So, we just talked about you've got to strengthen the defense too. Does Benito do that? Because obviously, in my opinion, if you trade Benito, you're probably going to have to go edge at 20 then. If you got Genti at 15, you're going to need to replace Benito. For the Falcons, would I do that trade? Probably not. For the same reason you're going to go edge at 20. Is he worth a 15? Yes. Is it the right pick for the Falcons? Probably not. Not with their team building. Because, and this is the caveat here, Benito's going to need a new contract. And I would want to take my chances on 5 years of cost control of a rookie right now rather than Nick Benito, who's really only had one season worthy of, and it was a great season, worthy of a first-round pick, the number 15 overall. So it's not the player. The player is worth a 15. I don't want to have just one more year of money on Nick Benito, and then I'm going to have to go sign 20-something million. I'd rather take my chances that he's going to be a free agent. Mm-hmm. But if I'm the Falcons, I need the contract, and I need the money. It might be a better fit for a team that is farther along in their process than the Falcons are right now.
Yeah. Yeah, Falcons, because of the Kirk Cousins stuff in the cap, I just don't imagine that. They'd probably rather have the 4 years of control and upside of Michael Williams, Jalen Walker, blah, 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 Mike Green versus Benito. But Benito's still a valuable player. He's probably somebody, if he was in the open market, you're getting an early second-round pick for him at this point, because it's also on the heels of a new contract.
If I'm trading the first, it's going to be somebody like these guys. Yep. Nick's good, but Crosby and Myles Garrett are different. He's younger for sure. That's a thing. But, I still can get 5 years from these two guys right here from Crosby and Garrett. Well, they might cost you another first rounder. Yeah, they might, but they're different. They're better. They're better players than Nick Benito. So I would go. I'd go somewhere that, because String Guy says, would you go after a trade for Max Crosby or Myles Garrett? I'd ask. Mm-hmm. I'd absolutely be on the phone. What are y'all looking at? And then I'd call up, it's like, we'd be interested in sending you 20 in next year's first for Crosby. And they say, yeah, I think we can get a better deal from the Falcons. Well, then I'd call up Terry Font and I was like, Terry, are you talking to the Raiders? What are you talking to? This is what he's telling us. Man, we're not offering him a second. We're not even on the phone with those guys. Yeah, and then you call back the Raiders and say, pound sand, come and talk to me when you're interested in 2 firsts. So there's going to be 32 teams interested in these guys.
Yeah. And so Micah Parsons also, there's a weird buzz out there with him as well. He's probably the most, if he was on the open market, he'd get the most return out of any defensive player in football, in my opinion. Because
I agree with you. I agree with you. So if I just interrupted and you didn't hear him, Nick said Myles Garrett, from a cost of ownership, what would it take to get him?
Parsons, right?
Parsons, apologies. Yep. Micah Parsons. I probably said Micah Garrett.
You said
Micah
Garrett.
Parsons is probably the most valuable defensive player in football right now. Well, didn't Pat Surtain just win Defensive Player of the Year? He did, and he just signed a new contract. His contract, by like $100 or $1,000, makes him the highest paid cornerback in football at $24 million a year. You'd have to multiply that by 1.5 to get to the highest paid edge player at 36. It was almost exactly 50%. 50% increase to get to Bosa, who makes $36 million a year. So Parsons' age, position, and production make him maybe the most valuable defensive player in the NFL.
Yeah. Also, if he was healthy the full season, he might have won Defensive Player of the Year, because his run towards the second half of the season was unbelievable. But talking about the draft, I'm going to get out of here in about 15 minutes or so, which is just maybe we'll have a 24-hour marathon show. Maybe this will never end, Scott, so you can never leave.
Run mock. I checked out NFL mock draft database.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. They've improved it. It looks pretty good.
Well, we can run that then.
There's a lot of ads, so we might be able to. Hopefully, we can close some of those out. But the board, it runs off their board, and the interface was a lot better this time. It was a little slow, but like you said, maybe we'll never leave.
Yeah, maybe we'll leave. I did want to give a shout out to Eric's article, which is the theme of the show versus us, just spitballing what's new. Eric did an article on 4 risers currently from the mock draft database, kind of teased it earlier about how things are going to change rapidly here now that coaches are getting their eyes on the film, these players, and the NFL media is talking with these guys after hours, after a few drinks. So they're going to get some ideas on boards. But 4 players who have skyrocketed up boards of late. You have Elijah Arroyo, tight end from Miami, who had an awesome Senior Bowl. He's moved his way up to like back end of the looks like 27th overall has been where he's been mocked a lot recently. Just skyrocketed. You also have Darius Alexander, the standout defensive lineman from the Senior Bowl at from Toledo. He skyrocketed to 36 overall, Scott. You have Azare Thomas, cornerback from Florida State, who, if we did a mock draft, I think last Wednesday, and we got Shillelagh for it, taking him in the 3rd round, I'm like, he's just too good here. He's going 30th overall on the mock draft consensus boards now. Probably one of the best press man corners in the class. Really long, good athlete. So he's somebody who could go back end of the 1st round. And then also you have Carson Schwessinger, linebacker from UCLA, only 1 year production out there, but really just all over the field, good processor. I don't think he's going to test like a freak, but the tape is just, he's everywhere. And he's moved up to 46 overall, Scott.
You're too young to remember this guy, but I think it was the 95 Nebraska Cornhuskers, which is like the best college football team I ever saw. Mm-hmm. Wasn't that the year they had Corey Schwessinger? It was as he was a fullback, and he was a full back. Like he was a Mike Allstott, full Larry Zonka, full back
type.
No relation. Because when I saw that name, I'm like, is there a relation here? Because Corey was a freaking beast. He was a beast. Schleisinger, different name probably.
Schwessinger for the that one. But Corey Schleisinger. That sounds familiar. That'll be interesting to see what happens there. But out of those guys listed, I mean, I think there's a chance Arroyo is in play for the Broncos at 20 if he tests as well as you think. Now, he scares me because of the leg injury. I much prefer him at, what is Denver picking, 51 out there, but he definitely fits the profile for a Joker. He actually also has like the size profile to be good enough in line as a blocker. He's more of an F tight end than a Y, but I think he actually, like, if you go 12 personnel or if he's your Y in an 11 personnel, he can function there. Out of those guys listed, though, I mean, I really think if Darius Alexander puts on a show at the combine, I think he was a Feldman freak, 34-inch arm length. He's a little bit older, 6-year player, but Scott, he played a year at Toledo at offensive tackle. So like he lost a year development there. I mean, that's crazy to me. So he's somebody you talk about this.
I mean, if you can play DL at that level, you can play offensive tackle.
Yeah.
It's the other way around. Your Iowa guy just absolutely kills me. Yeah. He makes me angry. Why are you not an offensive tackle?
They approached it and they tried to pitch it to
Yaya
him.
Black is who that is?
Yep. Yeah. They pitched it to him to try to move, and he said, nope, I want to stay at defensive tackle. So credit to them for giving him a shot. He probably would have entered the portal if they forced him to move.
If that was the SEC, we pull your scholarship and say, good luck, go somewhere else, because you're hurting our team by not doing what's best for the team.
Yeah. He was a good enough defensive tackle all the same for Iowa, but I digress. Those are the guys. Again, we'll see what happens with Arroyo. I don't love the value at 20. He has an injury that concerns me, but the combine's going to be big for him. We got Luke
Denver. Can we get a live reaction to my edit at the end of the show? I got to check it out first.
I know.
Before I can show it live, I got to check it out first. So I will go and look it up. I appreciate you taking the time to do that. That's very cool. And it's actually a good way to get some extra work. You know, hey, I need some video editing, DL. 78 Leadhead, great question. Also, he says, a little flattery, that always works. I'm insecure, so flattery works nice for me. You guys always scout good OL like Spencer Brown and Roger Rosengarten. Is Gray Zabel that guy this year? Could he be transcendent at center? The guys that I usually like so far, like that I try and prop up a little bit, have been tackles. So, Abram Lucas Abrams, what the hell was his name? Washington State guy, went to the Seahawks and played really well. Spencer Brown, Roger Rosengarten, 3 of those guys. Gray Zabel's interior line. I remember really liking Quinn Miners. I just don't remember how much because I was, trying to force rank them, and Spencer Brown was my guy. Gray Zabel off the top of my head, had the best Senior Bowl week of any interior lineman I've seen in my 5 straight years of going there, of the last 5 years. So that's where I'm going with that one. Can Gray Zabel be that guy this year? Can he be a Creed Humphreys that you plug in and could be a Pro Bowl center as a rookie? Yeah, he could. He's a significant upgrade at center over what you've had.
For me, my depth guy that I really like in this class is Jalen Rivers from Miami. I think he's got cross-positional versatility. I think he could be a good swing tackle, and I think he's going to be a superstar tackle. I don't, but he's somebody who interests me. We got DW coming in and says, listening while drinking my 5:30 a.m. Kona coffee. I must be over in Hawaii or something. It says, sure feels good to hear and be able to participate in team's discussion with such optimism. We all know our needs. Can you see Denver drafting something other than running back or tight end round 1? Absolutely. Linebacker. safety, wide receiver. We talked about Gray Zabel just a second ago. He's on the table. Defensive line. I mean, you have a lot of options there. Right now, there's probably only 3 combined running backs or tight ends that are worth that pick. So, yes, you have options at 20. I mean, and also the needs that you have are more so typically day 2 position. So, like, could Denver trade down from 20 and get all of those things? It's possible for sure.
Before we get back to Dale, another one of the great members of Broncos country that I've gotten to meet and befriend. Love you, Dale. Want to say hello, and I'm going to come back to this, I promise. But we want to get to Carl while his son before he goes out for school. He says, my son wanted to say, hey, Nick and Scott, have a great last show. Scott, say hello to your son for us. Have a great day. And we'll see you. Saw you last night. So I'll see you in a week. See you in a week, Carl. Hope your family is doing well. And we'll see you soon. Getting back to Dale, D-Dub, another part of our Hawaii crew, which has been very good to this show between Lion Coffee and the generosity of D-Dub through the years. Yes, the answer is yes. Can you see someone drafting outside running back or tight end? Absolutely. And the thing about that we said at 20 is it gives you the freedom to not worry as much about positional value because the contracts as you move down in the round change a little bit where, yes, a center, a Pro Bowl type center is worth a 20. A Pro Bowl tight end is worth a 20. A Pro Bowl inside linebacker is worth a 20. It might not be worth a 5. But, you want to hit on those guys. They can't just be, average players. But if you can get a guy that you think this is my answer at a non-premium position for 10 years, safety. Malachi Starks slips. He's down at 20. Denver Broncos take him and plug him in next to Brandon Jones. Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm excited about that, Nick. So it opens up all kinds of opportunities. And the fact is, yes, you have needs. Yes, you have wants. You will have free agency first also. But you can go best available here in a multitude of ways. It's just the way the board falls, Nick, running back makes a lot of sense. But you can go edge again, too. You can go DL. It won't surprise me at all. It might take the field on this one, Nick. What do you want to take? Do you want to you get running back or tight end? I get everybody else. We're going to bet a cup of Lion Coffee who wins. I might take the field on that one.
It's definitely in the conversation for sure. Yeah, they could go a number of directions with this team. And just looking big picture, like team building wise, like where do you have star players on defense and offense? I think your offensive line is pretty set for the next 2 years. You're going to have to figure out center, but having 4 or 5 set is pretty darn good, especially both your tackles. You have quarterback set. You have one star player on the defensive line. We can argue Nick Benito. I think Benito is very good. I'm very happy to have Benito. I don't think he's a perennial all-pro talent as a pass rusher. And you have one star player in the back 7. So on paper, like first round picks, it's not just about filling needs. It's about getting decade-long difference makers. You need an offensive weapon or 2. You need another defensive lineman or edge rusher, in my opinion. And you need another back 7 guy. That's what you're looking for in your top 7. So yes, offensive, immediately you have to have fine playmakers. You're not drafting 20 overall for the 2025 return. You're drafting about it for 2025 to 2032. So that's where I'm at with that pick. Yes, it's very much in play. And I do want to get to a mock because we do got to get.
Yeah, and what's nice with running back is those guys are instant impact guys.
That's the one position. Yeah. Typically in first round picks, you get a little bit of that. At some point, probably not you, will go over like Denver's draft picks since Peyton. Like how often do you actually get year 1 return on investment? Like Nick Benito round 1, it took him 2.5 years really to get rolling. Riley Moss missed a full season, all that stuff. So, we'll keep it going here. We got a mock draft. We're running the mock draft simulator here over on the NFL mock draft database.
This has been one of my favorite sites. They basically, at least they say they do. I don't know how much they update it, but this is the site I use when I reference draft rankings is NFL mock draft database.
And here we are with the Broncos. Tyler Warren falls to them here, as does Colson Loveland.
You got to go slower when you're scrolling. You just have to.
God bless you, Scott. I'm going to scroll back to the top here quickly. Tyler Warren, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, Emeka Egbuka, Jade Barron, dark horse here. Golden, somebody who's getting some love as of late. There's a man of worry. Harmon. I think the obvious pick here has to be the obvious pick. Probably won't fall, but, the board is the
don't
board.
Overthink it.
Yep. I'm going to scroll faster, Scott. Cover your eyes to get to the top. Okay. Tyler Warren. Here, we're going to go with it. You might be able to find a tight end later. I personally believe that tight end you'd probably double up on in this class if you can. One of your 6th-round picks.
Where did Genty go in this?
Genty went 1 pick before.
The pick before.
Yep. But that's like this is a perfect scenario for Denver because you're sitting there at 19. You have Genty or Warren on the board.
Yep.
Hallelujah. We're going to get one of them.
I think, in my opinion, Warren, there's a bigger difference between Warren and other guys, maybe Loveland, maybe those two, and maybe going down to Arroyo, than there is in the running backs. When that's the case, I get my running back in round 2.
Yep. And we'll see how it falls. Again, a lot of Tyler Warren post-Senior Bowl conversation of him actually going in like the 7 to 14 range almost exclusively. We're not going to do any trades today. But yeah, very interesting for Denver. We get Tyler Warren there. Now we're on the board with the 51st pick. There's Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle from Ohio State, who I love at nose. You got Isaiah Bond, wide receiver, who's very interesting. Quinshawn Judkins is there. You got Xavier Watts. There's Elijah Arroyo still there.
The fun about these early mocks is they haven't moved up the guys that we think are going to move up and end up usually moving up. The Darius Alexanders of the world.
Yeah.
The double O.
Jared Ivey is interesting.
Love that guy. I love Jared Ivey. Jared Ivey to me is the guy I take over Shamar Stewart. Cut this out and play it back in 5 years when you go, this idiot wanted Jared Ivey over Shamar Stewart as the best defensive player in the NFL. Yes, the only way you're not ever going to be wrong is to never make predictions. I like Jared Ivey better than Shamar Stewart at this moment.
Unfortunately, Omarion Hampton already went off the board. I don't see Henderson either. He must have already come off the board. This is one where I'd honestly maybe consider trading up in reality if those guys are flying off the board just to get that known quantity at running back. But right now, for me, I'm either Darius Williams or Darius Alexander or Tyleik Williams. Defensive line.
Sorry, I had to look away while you were yo-yoing.
I thought I was going slow.
So we're going Tyleik Williams or who?
Tyleik Williams or Darius Alexander, defensive line.
I like Darius Alexander better right now, but also your JT guy could be, if you want your solid as a rock edges, I mean, that's kind of what Jonah Ellis to me is not going to be an 18 sack guy. He's going to be a good pro for a long time and maybe get 8 to 10. JT could be that guy as well. But I love Darius Alexander. I absolutely love him.
The value here is defensive line for Denver. So the question is, do you want more of a 3-4-eye or do you want your 0 or 1? Because those are the options. I think you have some options at nose tackle a little bit better later. We might double up at defensive tackle depending on the board. So we'll go Darius Alexander here, Scott. I think this is good value here. Although Tyleik Williams is very much in play, as is Alfred
Watch
Collins.
it, 51. This is one you screenshot and go, we got him at 51 and he went at 30. When we show these, I like to save these later. Rattlesnake Master, been a big supporter of the show. He says, never miss a show. Going to miss this duo. I'll still watch every Falcon show, even though I don't care about the Falcons, just to listen to y'all. Love from Nebraska. Thank you, sir. We talk lots of football. We try and make it a guy talk show as well. But D-Dub coming back in. Thanks again, Dale. He says, my dream scenario for first 2 picks would be Warren round 1 and Caleb Johnson round 2. Yeah, you get Warren and then you get your running back. Okay, I'm pretty good now. And I still think you'll be a player in free agency. And remember, there will be cap casualties over the summer. So, yes, you want another wide receiver. If you leave the draft without a wide receiver in free agency, you don't get one in free agency, you leave the draft. That doesn't mean you still can't get one through September 1st, where they can come in and make a difference maker too. So you come out of this with, you're tight end and you're running back in round 1 and round 2. I think you're going to be pretty happy.
Yeah. And also at the comment about Jason saying, not sure if Caleb Johnson's a receiving running back like Sean. Sean had Mark Ingram, Chris Ivory as well, some hammers in that to go with the more receiving back. So we'll go Caleb Johnson here.
Yeah, Mark Ingram was a stump.
Yes. Yep. So I'm okay going Caleb Johnson here. All the same.
You saw Arroyo on the board still. I'm telling you, I just don't see him as a 30s. I see him as a 50s.
Combine's going to be big for him because of the medicals, and tight end testing matters so much. So we'll see. I think that's a good conversation.
Coach Chris wants to talk some defensive backs, Nick. This is all you. He says, knowing you guys have the internals on DBs, what positions do we address before the draft? I'm thinking we target wide receiver DL. I don't see any safeties out there. I don't see any high-level tight ends worth the investment. I mean, honestly, the top free agent safety out there might be Justin Simmons, and I don't think he's coming home.
It's Javon Holland is the number one
Oh yeah,
safety.
Javon Holland. Yeah,
He's going to get paid.
He's gonna, and there's definitely some Denver tie-ins in there. If he were to end up there, he went the pick after Javonte Williams. When you traded with the Falcons, who desperately needed a safety, traded out of that pick, Javon Holland goes the next pick. With the Broncos pick, the Falcons take Richie Grant, who was an absolute freaking bust. So there is some synergy in there to have Javon Holland end up in Denver/Atlanta over the free agency period.
Yeah. Safety makes sense here for Denver, but I think we got to go with Demetrius Knight. Big player, physical. If he can be a thumper, you're going to sign a linebacker in free agency, but guess what? Alexander is going to be out. Singleton, excuse me, is going to be out after his contract ends this year. So I really lean linebacker here. We'll go
Singleton come back. A 30-something-year-old who wasn't very fast to begin with is coming off a season-ending knee injury.
Yep.
But to finish, Chris, I think you need to go wide receiver and DL in free agency. There's no reason. I mean, you'll be signing to get to your 95 roster. You're going to be signing 40 guys at least soon. Yep. So I think you target wide receiver. DL, I think you want to get in the draft. I think it's a deep draft for DL. Yes, you'll sign some $3 million guys, as opposed to $1.2 million that you've had to shop this last year, and get some better pros. But I want to invest in the defense as well in the draft, and I think you can do that on day 2.
Yeah, I am 100% with you on that. I'm going to scroll quickly here, Scott. Look away, because I want to get back to the top, because I was scrolling fast here, and I know we got to get on.
It's not the speed; it's the change of direction.
Oh, okay. I'll just go up then. All right.
Yeah, it's the yo-yo that gets you.
We're great. Fantastic. All right. Well, I really scrolled down there. Goodness gracious. Oh, what's going on? Where are we at? Okay, here we go. I really think the guys who stand out here for me are JJ Pigus, Miles
Frazier is a good offensive lineman, and I really like Miles Frazier, and we talk all the time about not drafting offensive tackles. Where are we now? One round. I can't really see the round. I see the number,
6.
but what round are we?
6th.
6th round. Miles Frazier, done.
Let's do it. Yep.
Get your offensive tackle. He's really good. Put him in the pipeline. He's an upgrade on the swing tackles you've had the last few years, and he's got a chance to grow into something in 2-3 years to be a starter.
And now I'm going to go Brashard Smith here. Here's your pass catching running back, round 6. I don't know if he'll fall this far, but complements Caleb Johnson pretty well. And now we're sitting here with our last pick again. I'm honestly not against going another. We go edge rusher. I like Jod Joyner. Makes a lot of sense. Could go another tight end. We talked about double dipping at tight end.
Spring School was right there if you want another tight end.
He's different than Warren, too. He's more of your...
He's a big slot.
Big slot.
He's a little Jordan Humphrey replacement. He's 6'3", 6'4", just a tick under 240 pounds. He is your little Jordan Humphrey replacement. In the 6th or 7th round, that makes perfect sense because you got little Jordan Humphrey off the freaking practice squad.
Absolutely. And he's probably back on the practice squad too, Scott. So here we are. Our mock draft here. Tyler Warren, 20. Darius Alexander, defensive line, 51. Caleb Johnson, running back, Iowa, 85. Demetrius Knight, linebacker, 121. Miles Frazier, offensive line, LSU, 193. Brashard Smith, running back / pass catcher, joker. We've got 2 jokers here in the 6th round, Brashard Smith, and then Jake Brenningstool, tight end, with 210. So you guys let us know what you think there. We're going to have to wrap it on up and get out of here. I got a text saying, get your butt upstairs. We got to get rolling. So appreciate everyone. Scott, I'm going to give you the floor.
That already? Sorry, I meant to send that later.
Yeah, it's floor is yours as we but let me get through the read and then we'll do it. Make sure you guys are following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott's at Scott Kennedy. I'm at Nick Kendell, MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle, Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and Mile High Huddle Pod. And as the ticker says there underneath, please subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. Shout out to all of our star givers today. Denver Luke, Max coming in here. Denver Luke again, Dave Glassman, of course, Robbie Red. We got Lou coming in, David Youngkin, Right Wing Nut Job, Coach Chris, of course, as well. Leadhead, we got DW, Rob Buxbaum with a giant super chat, Rattlesnake Master. God bless you, Dale, Coach Chris again. You guys are killing it. Thank you so much for this last iteration of the show. It's crazy. God, I'm gonna cry.
DL saying thanks again, Scott. I'll continue to be supporting you on Falcons, also MHH. Yeah, you can still find me. I mean, I'm I'm not leaving, y'all. YouTube.com/Scott Kennedy is where I'll still be putting up a bunch of stuff. And I need to catch up on my Senior Bowl stuff. That's one of the reasons I'm stepping away from the show. I haven't had time to do any of my Senior Bowl video that we spent 3 days collecting.
Yeah.
So I need to get into that, and I will start. I will catch up because I want to have a lot of those guys done before the combine when people start searching their names.
Yeah.
Of course. But no, I've got my Broncos for Breakfast mug, and shoot, my name will still probably be on the intro for the next 6 months until we get that changed on the.
We have it, Scott. We already have
Broncos Country. Oh, did you get one?
I told Chad we needed it, and
I've been telling him for like the only show that still has the right names on it, I think, is Chad and Zach. That's about it.
I think
you're still introduced as the host of Building the Broncos.
Yeah, I am
on the intro.
But, yeah.
So let me I want to sign and for 78 Leadhead. I'm still producing the night shows, and I will. So I'm still here. And I will be doing, I say first guy out of the bullpen when they need somebody to fill in, which is like once a week. So I'll still be around filling in shows and then still producing on the backside. So I'm not leaving MHH. I need my mornings now to do some other stuff like content, a Senior Bowl video that I haven't been able to get to. And, but I want to say, thank you. Let me get rid of that banner. So let me sign us off here, Nick. The big thank yous I have for helping me do this show again is Chad Jensen of Mile High Huddle for creating this show for me and Nick at a time when I really needed it, 4 years ago. And it's been, hopefully we've been able to give y'all a show that will continue on. We've built kind of a brand here with Broncos for Breakfast. I want to thank Nick for doing this with me. We jumped into a podcast. It was the first time we met. It was the first show we ever did together. It was pretty much the first time we even met. We talked about the name of the show, and I think you came up with Broncos for Breakfast, which was just great. So want to thank Nick for being a good friend on and off air. I spend more time talking with him than I do anybody else, including my family, I think. And, of course, I want to thank Broncos Country for embracing me. You can just read through the comments here. It's incredibly humbling and makes it tougher to walk away, that's for sure. It's incredibly humbling. The support that y'all have shown me and continue to support me through the different media channels and stuff that I have. So thank you to all of y'all on Broncos Country. And I just want to sign off by saying to use Nick's phrase, because it sticks with me and means a lot, is have a great day out there, everybody. Remember to choose kindness and compassion. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos, guys.